Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Omni Athlete. You're here because, like us, you believe that sport is a vehicle for elevating global consciousness. But you know that elevating consciousness through sport only matters if it actually helps you to compete at your highest level. We created this show to empower your performance with the wisdom and techniques of the world's highest achieving mind, body, and spirit competitors. Okay, so today's guest is on a mission to help student athletes successfully launch entrepreneurial ventures, find career opportunities when they're done competing, and learn to transition gracefully into the next phase of their life. Through the founding of her social impact organization, Student Athletes Unite, and her pioneering book For the Other 98%, she's committed to solving the growing tension between student-athlete entrepreneurial drive and NCAA rules prohibiting the use of their athletic platform for profit. As a standout college basketball player, a master's graduate from the University of Arkansas, and a StartingBloc fellow, she's bringing the desire she's had since she was young to teach and grow the next generation of transformational leaders into the training ground of sport and entrepreneurship. It's my pleasure to introduce to Omni Athlete, Krystal Beachum. Welcome to the show, Krystal.
Thank you for having me, Josh.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We're super excited for this interview, and one of the places that I would love to start is maybe a little bit odd, but I thought it'd be a fun place. So you had 3 different coaches during your college basketball career, right? Tell me like what that was like and some of the challenges that went with that.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing was learning to adapt to styles. Just because one was really, I don't even know how to explain it. Like one, he was really structured. The first one was really structured. Really like set on plays. The second one was kind of like, fast paced, and because we were like the fastest team, I guess you can say, in the conference, and it was just like pushing the ball. And then the third one, she was like that, but within reason. And so we had different plays. It was just, I don't know, it was just different. Like the last one, I was able to play like my style of basketball, which was I liked. Whereas like the first coach I had, it was like, you do what I say, no deviating from it. And I was like, okay, I don't really play like this, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I think that was the hardest, like learning to adapt. And I feel like it helped me in a way within like my business, because sometimes we have to pivot and sometimes it doesn't work like how we thought it would. So we have to like go back to the drawing board and figure it out. So definitely the biggest lesson was to learn how to adapt.
Totally. And do you feel like, so one of the aspects of just sports in general, but especially college and professional sports that we take for granted at times, is the challenge of the coach-player relationship, right? And how if you're not dialed in and locked in with your coach, or if you guys don't have a strong relationship, how that affects both, performance and the way you feel about your sport and how you play. What were some of the challenges you had in building those relationships, and what were maybe some of the really strong parts of the relationships you had with your coaches?
Yeah, so definitely can begin with the first one, because when I first got to Henderson, I actually wasn't supposed to be there because the coach, before I came, I did not like him, but I came on a visit because my friend was there at the time. And so I decided to decline their offer. And then when he left, the assistant coach stepped up and re-invited me. He said, we love how you play. We love what you stand for and what you're doing. We would love to invite you back if you are open to it. And if not, you've been on campus. We just want to see how you are. And I said, okay, cool. So I ended up going there, signed on the dotted line, all that good stuff. And I got there, and he was really dishonest about some things. And like you said, it kind of affected our relationship and affected how I played. And my play the first semester was horrible. It was horrible. And then it's like, even though I suffered on the court, off the court, I excelled. Had
Interesting.
Because I spend more time in the library focusing on my books. Even though I've always done that, but I've never just had a 4.0.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and he was like, "Wait, this is supposed to be the other way around." Why isn't it flipped? And so he left. Well, the second I went home, I reevaluated, thought about leaving. I was contacting school, which that was illegal. I wasn't supposed to do that. And I went back home and just talked to my parents about it, and they were like, you shouldn't allow that man, because of him being dishonest and being like not trustworthy, affect how you're playing. So of course, went back the next semester, did really well, and just kind of just realized that it's about me and on the court. Like, yeah, he's your coach, but it has nothing to do with how you're playing. And I think we had a couple of injuries that second semester I was there. So he was able to count on me because I'm the more dependable person. And I was able to run point guard because I think we had a point guard, two of our point guards got injured or something. So he ended up coming to me because he knew I was dependable, and I guess you could say we kind of built our relationship. I was still kind of skeptical because I'm like, I really trust you, but anything for the team, anything to help my teammates.
Do you feel like that even at times, if the trust between your coach and you was a little strained, do you feel like when you stepped in, especially in that second semester and then forward, that you were able to build strong trust with your teammates through that process?
Yeah, for sure, because those are still my sisters. Like, and we made a declaration, like, even though, because I think at that point we were all just upset at him. We were just all upset when it was like, whatever we do on this court is for us. Like, we get coach, we get him. This is for us. So we're playing for each other. And so we were able to do that and have each other's back with that entire situation.
One of the areas of performance that is so challenging at times, right, is the relationship between teammates, right? And if we are, and I'm sure you experience this, right? If we're dialed in and aligned and in sync, the game is smooth and it flows fast. And when we're not, when we're fighting, when we're not on the same page, it really spirals quick. What can you remember? I mean, it sounds like you guys all having that kind of strained relationship with your coach was almost a good thing for bringing you guys together in some ways. Were there other areas of, whether it's things that you did as a team or just ways that you communicated that helped bring you guys close together while you were playing?
Yeah, so it was kind of once he left the picture, then our assistant coach, of course, when she was there as the assistant coach under him, she kind of held us together, like Krystal, you guys, I know you're upset. We'll see how everything goes. And so once he left, she became like the next person in line, but we were also way more connected to her than we were to him. Of course, she wasn't lying about anything. She was really straightforward, and she even opened the floor to even ask us questions about like why he left, or like what was the game plan for the upcoming season, what was going to happen to her if anything, like, because I think he had violated NCAA rules. So that's another reason why we got the third coach, because he kind of had to leave because of like guilty by association type stuff. So we were actually able to build a really good relationship with her because of how open and honest she was, which she is now one of my favorite coaches of all time. Actually, I think we hung out on Labor Day because she now works with Mason. So definitely like a good time for us.
So if we look forward from your career into what's become really, it seems like a passion that developed while you were playing and before and now flows through, why is it that so many student athletes struggle to navigate becoming entrepreneurs?
I think it's because, to be honest, I feel like we live in a microwave society, and I feel like I still feel that way sometimes because I was just so like excited because I was starting a business, but I was like, you know what? I know in like 6 months to a year, I'm going to be like full entrepreneurship. I'm going to be making six figures. Yeah. It didn't happen like that. Yeah. And I often tell like student athletes, like, it took us from maybe 6 years old all the way up till we were 18 to be a master of our craft. So we have to take the same mindset within business because we know it's not going to happen overnight. It didn't take you 2 years to become a Division I football player to the highest of your game. It didn't do that. And so I feel like sometimes we often forget as student athletes,
Yeah.
where they were like, well, it took me 4 years to become like really good. And I was like, yeah, in college, yeah, you develop from your freshman year to your high school, to your senior year, but you don't count the other years before then. And so I also have to, even in my own mind, I'm just like, Krystal, just keep the course. It's your second year in, like, you got like 8 to 9 more years until you get this right. And so I think that's what the hardest thing for like student athletes to remember is that we don't always start off well.
How does sport help us develop that patience almost, right? Because it's not, it is challenging, even if you're in college competing, right? You know that you've been training for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, but it's easy to forget in that moment. Yet somehow we kind of are able to still maintain that patience as we keep pursuing our goals. What is it about sport or just that dynamic that allows us to stay patient even in those moments when we don't want to be?
I think small wins, because I think
Yeah.
when I was, of course, a student athlete, and my last coach, I got this from my last coach, is like compound wins. And then we will also play in 4 minutes of each other because, of course, every time we played in halves, of course, I think it was like 10, 12-minute halves. And after every 4 minutes, we would have like a social media break or like some kind of break. And she was like, master those 4 minutes. She said, 4 minutes, play the best you can, play the best defense, and then you'll get a break. We regroup and then play the next 4 minutes. So it's 4 minute increments.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I take it within like myself. Because like right now, I have 4 hours, like from 8 to 10. Like, what can I do in those 4 hours? And I was so like involved in what I was doing that I totally forgot. And I was like, you know what? I'm getting this done, this done, this done. And but like it's literally 4 hours. Like she has 4 minutes, I have 4 hours. And then of course go take a break, go eat, go work out, and then come back and do 4 more hours. And so definitely taking that approach in like small wins, compound wins.
Was that something that you found yourself able to do before she kind of gave you that framework, that kind of 4-minute framework? Were small wins important to you before that, or was that the first time you're like, oh, okay, so now I can see if I keep stacking these small wins, what's going to happen?
I think I always had that framework because of my parents, but It was something different. Like it was kind of like, okay, we're cleaning up from 8 to 12, or you're cleaning up, or I know we have this. My dad, we're not able to sleep past 9 o'clock,
right,
in our household. And so he was like, you need to be up, ready to go by 9 o'clock, he said, and have everything done in his house by 12. So all of our cleaning had to be done by 12 because we knew that sometimes he would come home for lunch break or my mom would come home.
Yeah.
If anything wasn't done by 12 o'clock, we would be in trouble. And then she was like, once you get all your work done, then you can do whatever you want after you're done. And of course, it's during the summertime, holidays and stuff. And so that's kind of like how I grew up. And then then in college, when she said that, and I was like, oh, okay. Kind of similar to what I did at home, but like within basketball. So
yeah, awesome. So what are some of the other areas that for student athletes in college, other areas they can use to start preparing themselves for both life after sport, right? Number one, but also specifically for becoming entrepreneurs or to really starting something that is in that entrepreneurial world?
Yeah, so I remember when I first started, I guess you can say my entrepreneurship journey was in college, and I started in direct sales. And the first book I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when I tell you that just lit like a fire inside me, but also kind of like a light switch, just like looking at ways to network and build relationships very differently. And I feel like that was kind of like the secret to my success as far as like knowing who to talk to. And so my thing is like learning how to build relationships correctly and how to cultivate them. And then also with like learning as much as you can while on campus, because there's so many free resources that so many student athletes, not even student athletes, but students in general do not take advantage of. And even as a graduate assistant at the University of Arkansas, the Walton School of Business is one of like the best business schools in the U.S. And I was able to go to those events for free, not only because I was a student athlete, but I also worked in the athletic department. And I was able to literally network and build relationships and get so many free resources because I was a student. And I'm just like, if I can do it and I'm just a graduate assistant, imagine like as a student athlete,
right,
all this information and being able to leverage the resources and the connections that they have to build a business, not only on campus, but like life after school or life after sports.
So relationships has come up multiple times before as kind of one of the areas of athletic performance and just being an athlete that we either take for granted or at least aren't really conscious of how powerful it can be. Was there anything you did in college and then it sounds like, in that graduate space where you said, I need to be more conscious about cultivating these relationships. I need to be more, whether it's hanging with my teammates more, whether it's, investing a little bit more time getting to know fans or coaches or just, peers that are going through these same things. How did you really cultivate relationships in an intentional way?
Yeah, so one of the things that I did at the University of Arkansas, but Henderson State was where I began, was I went online and I looked up different organizations that I wanted to be a part of. And so I think they would call me the Michelle Obama of like my teammates would, because we're so connected to the point where if I have any questions, I can direct you to a professor, a dean, or the president of like the organization.
Yeah.
And they were like, Krystal, like, I don't know how you did it. And I think it's because I knew that I would be able to network across, where I knew that there was a friend that I knew that I wasn't really good at graphic design, but I knew somebody that was.
Sure.
And so I was able to build those relationships off of my interests, because I feel like if you were just building relationships just because you want to know that person, you won't be able to cultivate it because you all don't have anything in common. Yeah. And so I was able to do that really well, and within my similarities or within my moral values.
Was that true too for your teammates? I mean, we talked about this a little bit earlier too, but just circling back, did you really find yourself working to say, hey, what do I share in common with the people that I'm playing with and that I'm working out with and that I'm spending all this time training with?
A little bit. I was definitely the different one. Definitely the different one. And
how so?
Because, okay, so my nickname was like Nana for Granny, because I didn't go out, I didn't party, I didn't drink, I still don't drink. I was the person that was like the networker, like, okay, I don't know what y'all about to do, but I'm about to go to this event, and if y'all want to ride, if y'all wanted to come with me, y'all can. Yeah. Most of the time it was like, no, but then like looking back, or them looking back, I'm like, Krystal, we wish we would have gone there instead of going to this party, or like, hey, can I write, or hey, can you write a letter of recommendation for me? And I'm like, you don't know anybody else? They're like, no, like, we know that you're really good. And I'm just like, see, if I would have built these relationships in college, you would have like recommendations, like hands down, like you could have anybody write a recommendation for you right now, but you decided not to build your network. So
it is really interesting, right? Because I remember being in college as well and reflecting on how many opportunities I feel like I missed and still feel like I took advantage of more than most people, right? And so, as athletes, we talk a lot on this show about how the things that we do around sport can really influence performance, right? So it doesn't have to always be about, let me train harder, get in the gym more, spend an extra 2 hours practicing, whatever the case may be. There's other ways to build my skills as an athlete. And in college, it almost seems like we get told to be focused as athletes, right? We have to dial in and focus, but it's very easy to forget that it's not just the parties, it's not just the social life. There's pieces of college that can actually make me a better athlete that have nothing to do with practicing more, right?
And I think that's what I got really good at, was because I not only built relationships within the athletic department, but also on campus. And because, like, of course, how Henderson was set up is that everything that was pretty much considered athletically, or like with the stadiums, the basketball gym, the admin office were all downstairs or all downhill. And so it's like, once I'm downhill, I'll go and visit everyone. Like, hey,
Sure.
hi, just go and stop by the office, just speak and say like, hey, how are you doing? But once I'm uphill or once I'm on campus, it's all about on campus work. Like, what can I do to build my relationships on campus? And I feel like sometimes student athletes get away from that because, like, once they're out of athletic, they're like, you know what, I don't want to talk to nobody. Like, just going straight to school, straight to class. That's it. Coming back down to practice.
Did you ever feel like, or have teammates that experienced this, where it felt like your jersey was almost like a superhero suit?
Yeah. They're like, oh, I play basketball, I'm not going to get in trouble, or I'm playing basketball, they're past me, or like even within like the football players. And I'm just looking at them like, really? You're not just going to do any of the work? Like, you're just going to just like go to class and sit in there and not do the work and think you're going to pass because you're an athlete? Like, that's why we have this negative connotation around student athletes, where they get everything, they don't do anything, because of teammates or like football players, basketball players, heck, hockey players that do that. And it's because of they think they have a Superman suit, and when they have that on, they're like, well, nothing else matters. Like, I'm invincible. Which that's totally not true.
And it's not true. You're right. And one of the things that the reason I asked that question too, Krystal, was one of the aspects of your book that really jumped out at me. One of the aspects of just listening to you and other interviews you've done and reading the work that you've done, it feels like even if you didn't look at it as having a superhero suit, you didn't feel like you were a different person because you stopped playing basketball, right? And it feels like you just said, I'm the same Krystal I was playing basketball. Maybe I'm not playing basketball anymore, but I'm the same person. And it seems like that is such a hard thing for us to do as athletes, because we tend to think of our jerseys sometimes as superhero suits, and when we take them off, it's like all of a sudden we've lost our power.
It definitely with like identity, and I think I can contribute, me, even my siblings, was my parents, because they were like, you know what, use sport as a vehicle. Like, sport is a vehicle. I tell people all the time, or I tell like the younger mentees that I have, is like, basketball is not life. Like, I'm not like, basketball isn't life for me. But basketball was a vehicle that I used in life to get me to where I wanted to be. And my parents taught me that, because they told us at an early age, like, we cannot pay for your school. Like, you have to find out. So me and my siblings were all involved in like different things. Like, I was in band, I played volleyball, ran track, basketball. Heck, I was even the mascot, just to have fun, just to add it on my resume, because I wanted people to see that I was like really well versed and a well-rounded person overall, and basketball was not my only like identity. And so I do contribute a lot of that to my parents because of that. And it wasn't like, the transition wasn't hard, except for when I started at the University of Arkansas, because as an athlete, it's like everyone always knows you. Like,
right.
I was walking on campus and no one knew me, and like no one was saying hi to me, and I'm like, all right, this is different. Okay. This is different. And then the fact that there was more time on my hands, and I didn't know what to do with it. I'm like, okay, this is the time I'm using in practice. So do I take a nap, or do I just what's going on? So, but the transition and brand identity was not like, I wasn't in a crisis. It's like other people.
So you were a counselor for student athletes at University of Arkansas, right? One of the questions that I would love for you to just kind of, whatever comes to mind here, what were some of the challenges that you experienced kind of being the mentor in that situation that some of these student athletes were going through?
I think what I saw a lot of is they weren't taking advantage of the opportunities that they had. And specifically like American students, because I had international students that came in and they were just involved in everything. They took advantage of every course, every opportunity, every networking event. Like, it was to the point where it was like night and day with like American athletes and like international athletes. And I'm just like, but I understood why, because international athletes come to America because they have more opportunities to succeed in life. And of course, being in America, like, you're growing up with like privilege. Like, we have access to education, to water, to electricity. We have like basic needs, whereas like international students don't. So they come here and take advantage of everything, like all the food. Like, some of the student athletes, American student athletes, I'm tired of eating omelets every day. No, international student, like, well, I love omelets. Like, we never had this in Brazil or something like that. So that was one thing that really resonated with me. And then another thing is that some of the student athletes were, I guess you can say, the identity. Like, they've always played basketball. And most of it was because I did women's basketball. And they were like, I don't know outside of that. I'm like, okay, so what do you want to do? I don't know yet. Okay. What do you like? I like this. I like this. Okay, like, let's find your major within that. Oh, that one's too hard. What? Like, I don't understand. Like, this is what you like. This is what you want to do. That was a hard thing for me to understand, was they didn't take advantage and they didn't know what they wanted to do outside of their sport or once they graduated.
So what's really interesting to me is that we could, as athletes, we do hard things every single day, right? I mean, that's the nature of especially competing at any level in college, right? Like, if you make it that far, you're challenging yourself every single day and really pushing yourself. Yet we don't always take that same approach to other interests that we have in life. Were there any specific ideas or techniques that you would try to share with those student athletes in those moments and say, hey, look, it's the same thing as basketball, right? I mean, you have to approach it the same way. Were there any things that you tried to share with them?
Yeah, so I used to do this activity with them, and even to this day, I would laugh. So one of the student athletes, if I knew we wanted to focus like on career exploration or like trying to do different avenues, I would take them in the room outside outside of where we were, because all the graduate assistants were all like together. And so I would take them into a room and I would just say, like, if money didn't exist, like, what are some things you would do for the rest of your life? And and two in particular that I remember, one wanted to be an FBI agent, and then the other wanted to like train dolphins. Like, interesting. Actually, which was good for the FBI because I know an FBI agent, and because we were both in the same town, and so I connected her with her, and I was like, if that's something you want to do, I'll connect you. And so I don't know where that relationship went, but I was able to do that. And then as far as like the dolphin trainer, she is actually on her way to the UK. She's finishing up her degree in, I think, communication. Or I think she got her undergrad in communication. I think she's getting her master's in liberal arts maybe. But I used to do that with my student athletes because I feel like that was one, like, they can dream of anything they wanted to do without any limitations. And then focus on, okay, this is the current avenues that you have that's here. And then this is what you can do within like your, I guess you can say your career field, or not even that, but as a student athlete, this is what you can do. And so I was able to actually steer some of them in the right directions, and some they're just like, nope, I'm stuck on this, I'm doing this. One girl, I told her she should do business because she wanted to own her own like tennis company and whatever. She was like, nope, too hard. So she ended up doing communications, but she graduated and she still owns her business. She still has a business in like tennis sport, I believe. So, like, even though she went a different path, she still went and, like, figured out her dream, and she's still, like, pursuing her dream. So that's all I really wanted my student athletes to do, and some of them have done that or are doing it.
So there's one more question in this thread that I want to pull, and then we'll shift a little bit into the side of it that is really your focus right now with helping student athletes become entrepreneurs and navigate that process. But this idea of finding other passions outside of sport. How did that show up in performance for any of the student athletes that you worked with? Or if you just reflect on when you were playing, did you feel your performance change when you felt like you had either more passions or other passions outside of basketball, or at least were able to kind of say, these are the other things that I really enjoy doing too?
Yeah, definitely, because when I guess you could say I was present in the moment. Like, I was not Krystal Beachum the athlete, I was Krystal Beachum the person.
Yeah.
And not only was I able to build interest outside of basketball, but I was also able to meet people outside of basketball that I was able to vent about basketball to. Like, I had a church family that I would go over like once or twice a week just to vent and to chill and not be a student athlete, but also just a person. Yeah. And then I also had a really good friend on campus that I was able to, like, she was just a friend, and she didn't even come to my games. I think she only came to like 2 of my games, but I liked that because she was connected to me because of Krystal the person. And even some of the athletes that I worked with, one tennis girl, international student, came over here and she was involved like on camp. Like, when I tell you, she was probably the version of me, but an international student. It was crazy. She was involved in SAC and like the SEC. I think they had like SEC like advisory committee. I think she was involved in that. She was also involved on campus. She was involved in her business major. She actually co-founded another organization for Brazilians. So she was like the female, like the international version of me. And she was still really great in her sport, which was amazing, like, because I feel like she was able to like live in the moment and focus like on her sport. But when she's out, she's like, I am Flavia, the actual person, the Brazilian. And whereas like on the tennis sport, I'm Flavia, the student athlete. And so she definitely excelled and did really well, but she also did really well on campus.
It's such a challenging and energizing process to navigate, right? Because when you can find that balance, it seems like from what you're sharing, from conversations we've had, that ability to find the other pieces of us that make us human beings, right? That we really get energy from, and being able to still cultivate those and be part of those while we're competing can really feed that performance if we do it in the right way. So when taking a little bit of a left turn, what I'm really curious to hear from you, Krystal, is how does it feel to be a college athlete, right? And not be able to necessarily use that platform that you have, that you've put all this work and energy into, to build a business around the way that somebody else who has thousands of social media followers, or even hundreds, right? Or that, what does that feel like?
It's frustrating. I will tell you that. And I think my experience was different because I was Division II. And even to this day, like, some of the stuff I did, I'm like, I could have been like ruled ineligible because of this.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be doing this. Yeah. But like I said, I'm pretty sure it was different because I was Division II. We didn't have a big department where they really monitored that. And even now, like, going back to where I was a academic counselor for at the University of Arkansas, one of my student athletes was a tennis player. She created a company as well. And then there was another track athlete. They created a nonprofit. And just talking back and forth with them, they were like, the student athlete development, they don't have anything like similar to what we were doing. They don't have any courses. They don't have any workshops that we can attend. Like, they're like, okay, go on campus. But it's like, where do we go on campus? Like, that's it. So I think it was really frustrating, not only for me as a student athlete, because of course I still wanted to build that business, but I felt like I didn't have the resources within my own athletic department, but also frustrating for the student athletes that are wanting to do that, wanting to make extra money because they built this platform and they're unable to do it.
One of the biggest challenges in navigating entrepreneurship as a student athlete is understanding, okay, I have a platform, but I have to understand the rules and regulations that go with that to be able to use it effectively. So do you have any recommendations besides, maybe, one of the things you mentioned earlier was really being in good contact with your compliance officer and that part of the athletic department. Are there any other suggestions you have in terms of ways to really navigate those challenges?
Well, whenever SAU Academy comes out, they can definitely go there and purchase it.
Yeah.
But right now, compliance is probably the best way. And then also maybe possibly looking up other student athletes who are doing something that they're doing and they know that they are a student athlete, but they're also making money. Just ask some questions because I know, for example, there was a student athlete at SMU, Deion Sanders Jr., I think back maybe a couple years ago. He created a t-shirt line called Well Off Forever, and he works within the compliance, and he was able to do that while also being a student athlete, so creating revenue. And they were able to actually separate his brand from the two. Like, he didn't have any in correlation to him. And I think that would have been a really good person to reach out to. Even now, like as a current student athlete, if you know that he's accessible, then you can actually reach out to him and just say, hey, how were you able to do that? Especially since his dad is a huge name, Deion Sanders, his son, and he was actually still able to do that. So definitely maybe reach out to other student athletes that you know, and then pick their brain or just ask for advice of what they can possibly do in their compliance.
It seems like one of the recurring themes in our conversation has been this idea that there are oftentimes so many resources around us that we just don't take advantage of, right? And maybe especially true for student athletes that we're in this position where we have a ton of opportunities to really strengthen ourselves, but don't necessarily either see the resources that are there or use them to our fullest capacity. What are some of the other ways that we can bring that attention to a student athlete? Is it through coaches that are more vocal about, hey, go, use these resources, build these skills? Is it in, creating like you're doing with SAU, creating more tools for them to understand what resources are there? How else can we empower student athletes?
I think especially through, like you said, the coaches being more vocal, and with the age of social media and how everyone is making money off of internet, online, I think all athletic departments should be aware of that and should get behind it because, with the current state of paying the athletes, I don't see that anytime happening soon. However, if we teach student athletes entrepreneurship, they can pretty much be self-sufficient within itself. And we would technically have to pay them if we give them opportunities. And then I think also for the athletic department to be vocal with the business school, see if they can go to partnership and build curriculum around student athletes. The compliance officer could teach about the rules and regulations regarding the NCAA, and then the business school can teach about ways that you can build a business or entrepreneurship 101. That way they'll get the best of both worlds. Yeah, I'm a communication major. However, I can start a media agency with the things that I have learned from the business school.
It almost seems like, and I'm sure this happens, but there seems like maybe there's a gap still that as a student athlete, we're developing these platforms that are so incredible if we know how to use them, right? And if we're really given the tools. So it seems like that's a method to just enhance the experience of student athletes, not confuse it or distract.
Exactly. And I think that's what, because it kind of goes back to the conversation where you talked about sometimes people just want us to focus.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like that. Once you graduate, you can't just put your focus on one thing and think that it's going to take you places. You have to make sure you delve into oh yes, I can focus on working at Goldman Sachs, but I also have to focus on okay, where can I put this money, or what can I do as a side hustle, or if I have a family. You have to have different focuses, just not on one thing. And I think sometimes that takes away from the student athlete.
Krystal, this has been absolutely incredible, and I think there is an energy behind what you're bringing that is so needed within college sports. So it's super energizing. Before I ask my final question, where can these guys go to connect with you online?
Yeah, so they can connect with me through LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all under Krystal Beachum. And then as far as like my company, you can go to www.StudentAthletesUnite.com. And of course, they have it. My website also has all my social media handles, so they'll be able to contact me or connect with me there as well.
Awesome. So this show is called Omni Athlete because we want to understand what it takes to become the ultimate mind, body, and spirit competitor. So our final question on the show is, what does it mean to be an Omni Athlete to you?
I think I think being able to be centered is something that I think of, and being able to be well-rounded, because I feel like that's what Omni Athlete is, being well-rounded with everything that you just named. And I'm trying to be more philosophical, but I don't think I will be. But I think just being able to be centered and being more rounded as an athlete, as an individual, and using people around you to do the same for you as well.
Awesome. Krystal, that's incredible. And thank you for being on the show. This has been, like I said, guys, go check out Krystal's website, dive deep into her world, grab her book, and just explore what it can look like to be, whether you're a student athlete or not, explore what it can look like to take this platform that sport can be for us and this vehicle that it can be, and see what it looks like to apply that platform to another passion or area of life. And that's what Krystal is all about. And you're going to get that immediately when you both read her book, check out her social media, see what she's doing with Student Athletes Unite. Like, there is such an authenticity and strength behind her desire to share more ways for athletes to leverage the skills and platforms that we build in the grind of sport anyway. So why not apply it somewhere else where you can have just as much benefit and do it potentially for longer and longer in your life than just the few short years that we might be a student athlete or competing at the ultimate levels. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching this episode of Omni Athlete. Hey, what is up, guys? Thank you for watching another episode of Omni Athlete. Please go like and subscribe to our podcast. That is our goal right now, is just to build this community as big as we possibly can, and we need your help to do it. So like and subscribe, share our content, guys. If this content adds any value to your world that helps you perform, connect, go deeper, go wider, whatever it is that it does for you, if it provides value, all we ask is that you share our content and help grow this community. We can't accomplish our goal of elevating global consciousness through sport without you. You are an integral part of this mission and this purpose, and we need your help. So please go like, subscribe, and share our content, and continue to help us build and grow this community that is truly motivated to not just elevate consciousness, but elevate and shift the very culture of sport so that we can truly experience the athletic experience in a brand new and energizing way for so many people, guys. So thank you, and please like and subscribe. Until next time.